So Stefan wrote in early in the group earlier this month. He says, this song was a really good one, but a nightmare to mix. I've reworked the drums several times, but I'm still not satisfied. I just can't get the clarity and punch. I don't know why. Compression or balancing or something else? I think I got lost. Maybe someone else has some advice for me. I'd really appreciate it. Okay, well, Stefan, I'm glad you brought this up. The big thing with this mix, right? As you could hear, these drum tracks are crazy, right? I mean, not technical. It's not like there's polyrhythms. It's not like it's Meshuggah or some technical form of music, but a lot of blasting, right? And that's always the challenge. How do you get things to sound clear when there's all this blasting going on in orchestral elements and this happening, right? And the true secret, well, there are a few, but I would say the number one thing that most people don't talk about, and I think you're going to guess what I'm going to say, is going to be automation. All right, if you look at my tracks here, I have for my kick and snare especially, I have a lot of automation. Now, here's the thing. Even though my automation, I have a lot of it, it's not complicated automation. It's mainly reductions. Because in your mind, what I want you to do is this. Think about a drummer playing in a room, a good drummer. When they blast, they're not going to be hitting at the same intensity of when they're playing a simpler beat, right? And obviously with this kind of music, you have to use a kick and snare sample. That's what the music calls for. It's part of the aesthetic of this kind of production. And it's just necessary, right? But because of that, if you don't do anything with the kick and snare, as far as automation, they could be overwhelming and they could just sound mushy and sound fake, and the low end will be out of control, and the blasting will be conflicting with the vocals, with the cymbals, with the guitars and everything else. So I take a very simple mindset or a simple approach with this. If there are fast double kicks, right? Like if we look at the beginning of the song during this part, okay, the simpler section, to me, that's my nominal level, my normal level for my kicks. I keep it at 0 dB. I do a lot of cutting, okay? So I'm cutting my kicks by 4 dB during the crazy blasts, and then by dB and a half during the slower blasts. Again, a lot of cutting on the kicks, and even more cutting with the snares. Because again, you have to, in your mind, imagine what a drummer will kind of sound like in a room. And if they're blasting super fast, and the other instruments are taking over, like the vocals or the orchestra or the rhythm guitars, he's not going to be hitting the kick and snare that hard in reality. So what the samples allow you to do is they're giving you a clearer version of a good performance, because you need the samples to create clarity for this kind of music. Again, it's all subjective, but for this kind of music. But that automation really, really helps. I can't overstate it enough. I know, people hear this and they think, oh yeah, that's cool. And then they don't really think about it much. But putting in the time and adding that automation in, even though it's kind of boring, goes a long way, especially when you have all of these interlocking parts like in this mix. And here's the other thing. This mix was well performed, meaning the sources were well performed, they were well captured, the guys were good players. Can you imagine doing it on a song that with not like subpar playing? Forget about it. So super important to understand. So hopefully that helps as far as the clarity. Another thing with the clarity is don't be scared to, high pass your overheads. A lot of people have this fear of low frequency removal on their overheads, and they end up with this gongy kit sound when the crashes happen. We have to remember, in this mix, you have room mics, kick and snare going crazy, toms going crazy. Do not be scared to roll off a lot more low end on your cymbals than you would think. So in my mix here, I'm rolling off everything below 810 hertz. I have a second filter here just to create a steeper slope. So hopefully that helps. Now, if you're looking to improve the sound of your mixes, it's critical to have a firm grasp on solid EQ and compression techniques. And this is why I'm offering you direct access right now for absolutely free to my crisp and clear heavy mix formula. The heavy mix formula is comprised of 3 main components: an EQ and compression cheat sheet that contains all of my starting points when it's time to mix a heavy production. Within the cheat sheet, there are clickable links to private mixing tutorials for all of the main instruments within a heavy production. And finally, there's a clickable link below each of the individual tutorials so you could download the exact same multi-tracks that I'm using so you can mix along with me. Again, the crisp and clear heavy mix formula is absolutely free, and there's a link below that you can click and you can have direct access right now. And until next time, happy mixing.